There's another big story this week. It's the abortion debate. It's front and center because this is the anniversary of Roe versus Wade. What year anniversary is it? It was 1973, so it's 2003 is 47 years. Is that what it is? So 47 years of abortion on demand thanks to judicial fiat. And many of us conservatives want to extend the protections of the rule of law to the unborn. And that's been a challenge because the judicial branch has taken up powers the Constitution does not allow them to have and has restricted the ability of the states in large measure to protect unborn life. And there's been changes in the Supreme Court jurisprudence that have allowed more abortion restrictions. So that's where the fights have been centered around in the last 15 years or so. You've had heartbeat bills, you've had the successful passing and the court upholding the partial birth abortion ban. And the most recent Supreme Court case to take this up is a case out of Louisiana where the Supreme Court is considering challenges by not women, but abortion providers to the Unsafe Abortion Protection Act. The law requires doctors who perform abortions to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital. And so what's happening is abortionists are coming in and trying to overturn the law. Now, this isn't it. The Judicial Watch has filed what we call an amicus brief, a friend of court brief, to explain or help educate the court on a legal issue we think it ought to consider as it takes up this case. Of course, abortion's front and center this week. That it's only coincidental that we did the lawsuit because the brief was due around now because they had the March for Life. The president spoke at the March for Life, the first time the president in U.S. history has done so, as I said, for 47 years. So abortion's a big issue these days. So what do we say in the brief? Well, this is an issue that's broader than abortion. It's the issue of standing. And Judicial Watch, and standing is the idea that a court, just because you may not like something happening, it doesn't mean you have the standing to go to court and get a resolution and get someone to stop, in this case the government, to overturn a law or to stop enforcing a law, get the court to stop, get the government to stop enforcing a law. And Judicial Watch, when we pursue litigation, that's always a challenge to any person pursuing litigation or any group like Judicial Watch. So what's the standing? We may not like something, but there may not be a process that we can take advantage of in the court because we don't have standing. We're not being harmed. And so it's never been really an issue for the left because the left writes the law, and standing is never an issue for the left. It rarely is an issue for the left because the courts are court jurisprudence on standing is run by liberals, and liberals get a lot more access to the courts than the conservatives do. We've seen this directly where we basically have pursued basic standing issues that anyone else would be able to pursue, but we can't. We had some Obamacare issues on that regard. On environmental issues, for instance, they've written the law in such a way as that you can go and have standing in court just because you don't like the way a forest will look after a few trees are going to be cut down. That gives you standing. Can you believe that? And in the case of this abortion law, you had abortionists coming in to supposedly to argue on behalf of women who seek abortions. Well, you know, that's typically not what courts allow to do. As we point out, plaintiffs, the people filing the lawsuit, generally may file a lawsuit only to protect their own rights, not the rights of others. In this litigation, the lower court allowed third-party abortion interests to challenge the law on the theory they represent the interests of women. But as we point out, expanding health and safety requirements, as I said, the law requires increased safety at abortion clinics. For abortionists, you know, that can be argued to be in the interest of the women who use abortion clinics. This is the quote from the brief. Plaintiffs' actual interests are made clear. Unfettered access to perform abortions free of any regulation presumably for financial gain. No individual women appeared as plaintiffs in the case. No women testified that they preferred not to have their abortion providers have admitting privileges, or they preferred abortion providers to ignore the FDA-approved use of abortion medications. It defies logic to think that women would not have an interest in these things. Hence the conflict of interest between the litigant abortion providers and the third-party women rights holders. So the point of the brief is, you could be a woman seeking an abortion in a clinic, and you may, say, I want my doctor to have admitting privileges to a hospital in case something goes wrong, and I don't want anything to slow up my getting admitted to the hospital. But because abortion is treated differently than other so-called rights, the lower courts let these abortion providers come in and pretend to represent all women. So if you're a woman listening to this broadcast, do you think abortion providers represent your interests? If any one of you say no, you'll see where we're coming from. Judicial Watch argues the Supreme Court to rein in this abuse of the courts. Petitioners' claim of assumed third-party standing would effectively gut both the purpose and application of third-party standing. They would essentially be free to challenge any law that even directly touches on abortion simply because they fall into a category of favored litigants. Again, different standards for the left. This defeats the purpose of the political process, thwarts the will of the people, and contravenes the role of the legislature. In every case where litigants like petitioners, the abortion lobby, abortionists, have used assumed third-party standing, legislative hearings and debate, public hearing, all of that, legislative hearings and debate, public hearings and debate, and political election exercises have been for naught, completely neutralized by their desire to leapfrog the political process and use the courts to overturn these laws. Anti-democracy. Slow motion coups, if I may add. You know, the left and abortion interests regularly abuse the law to try to change laws, and in this case they're trying to challenge laws that restrict abortion. So they really can't find anyone who's been harmed by the laws, so the courts, liberal jurists, judicial activists have let these abortionists come in because they don't like the underlying law and they want to try to figure out a way to overturn them, so they bring in a plaintiff who has no business being in court. That's the problem, and it's typical of the left. The Supreme Court should put a stop to the misuse of the courts by interests that seek to overturn laws passed by the people's representatives. So, I mean, this whole attack on our republic is so broad. I'm talking about impeachment, I talk about spying, but you have to remember the courts are also being abused. And we're asking the Supreme Court to reform it and put a stop to it. So the case is about abortion, but it's about the misuse of the activist left of the courts to come in and stop everything from happening. You see this in immigration, where you have plaintiffs who they've wildly, vastly expanded the ability of illegal aliens to challenge the ability of the president to defend the country and secure our borders. You see that time and time again, where courts are allowing our country to be run by foreign nationals who have no right under law to be here. It's unbelievable. That's just another example. It's not just abortion. So this is an issue that is kind of a technical issue legally, but very much important to your right to govern yourselves. Again, who should run your life? Who should figure out whether or not you can pass a law that doesn't touch on constitutional rights in any reasonable way? You or judges who want to substitute their political judgment for yours. That's the crisis in judicial activism that we're trying to address. So that's why I love Judicial Watch. You know, we're in the middle of the impeachment fight, we're uncovering the Spygate, and yes, we're in the courts every day trying to save the republic from an activist judiciary and the left that's abusing the judiciary to undo our constitutional republic. So I thank you for your support. Oh, I forgot. This is our T-shirt. This is the superhero T-shirt. And we have other great merchandise on our website at judicialwatch.org. You go to the website, click on Shop JW, and you can get this T-shirt and other merchandise. And everything you purchase, a part of that goes to support our work. And so it's a great way to show your support from Judicial Watch and get some great stuff like this shirt. So they made this special superhero T-shirt. And of course, I'm not a superhero. You're the superheroes because we can't do it without your work. So I want you to get this shirt to show your support for us and show that you deserve credit as well for the good work we do because of your support. So thank you. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time here on the Judicial Watch Weekly Update.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.